They don't say it to your face. No one pulls you aside and tells you that something about you has changed. But you feel it. People don't listen the same way anymore. They interrupt you more. They reply slower. They cancel without explaining. And the strange part? It didn't happen overnight. It happened gradually. So gradually that you almost didn't notice until one day you realize something is off. People don't treat you the way they used to. And here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not random. It's not bad luck. And it's not just how people are. It's patterns, specific behaviors that quietly lower your value. Things that seem normal. Things that even feel right. But they send the wrong signal over and over again. And once that signal is set, people adjust. Not consciously, but automatically. Because respect is not something people decide to give you. It's something they feel. And once that feeling drops, everything changes. So if you've been feeling ignored, overlooked, or taken for granted, pay attention. Because one of the fastest ways to lose respect is needing approval. Not liking approval, not appreciating it, needing it. There's a difference. When you can't move forward without someone agreeing with you, when you hesitate until someone validates your decision, when you constantly check how others react before you act, you give away control, you shift authority outside of yourself. And people feel that instantly. You start saying things like, "What do you think I should do? Is this okay? Do you think this will work?" And it seems harmless, but it builds a pattern. A pattern where you're not the source of decisions, you're just reacting. And people don't respect reactions, they respect direction, even imperfect direction, even decisions that aren't always right, because certainty creates stability, and stability creates trust. But if you don't trust your own judgment, people won't trust it either, and the more you seek approval, the less they look to you for anything meaningful. Now here's where it gets worse. Because once you start doubting yourself, you begin to over-explain. You say something simple, then you add more, and more, and more, trying to make it bulletproof, trying to remove any chance of disagreement, trying to sound right. But what people actually hear is this: you're not confident in what you said. Because confident people don't overload their message. They don't rush to justify every detail. They don't chase agreement. They state their point, and they stop. That pause, that silence, that's where authority lives. But when you keep talking, you weaken your own position. You give people more to question, more to doubt, more to pick apart. And the worst part? You train them to expect it. They start waiting for your justification instead of respecting your statement. And over time, your words lose weight. Another silent pattern is being too available, always replying fast, always picking up, always adjusting your plans. It feels like you're doing the right thing, being reliable, being easy, being good to have around. But here's what actually happens. You remove friction. And without friction, there's no value. Think about anything people respect. Time, attention, opportunities. They're not always accessible. There's a limit, a boundary, something that makes them feel important. But when you're always there, always ready, always saying yes, you remove that sense of importance. You become predictable, and predictable, without boundaries, becomes invisible. People stop appreciating your time because you've shown them it's always available. And what's always available feels replaceable. This is where boundaries come in. And this is where most people fail, because they think boundaries are aggressive, or rude, or unnecessary. But the truth is simple. No boundaries, no respect. If people can interrupt you anytime, change plans last minute, speak to you however they want, and nothing happens, you're setting a standard, not with words, With behavior, you're showing them, this is acceptable, and people follow that. Every time, because humans test limits, not always intentionally, but constantly. And if there's no resistance, they keep going. Respect is not built on kindness alone. It's built on structure, on knowing where the line is, and what happens if it's crossed. If there's no consequence, there's no reason to change. Another mistake that destroys respect is trying to be liked by everyone. It feels safe, it feels smart. You avoid conflict, you agree more, you soften your opinions. But something strange happens. The more you try to be liked, the less you're respected, because you become adaptable to the point of disappearing. Your opinions shift depending on who you're with. Your behavior changes depending on the situation. And people notice that. They might still like you, but they won't take you seriously because there's nothing consistent to hold on to. No clear identity, no stable ground. Respect requires clarity, knowing what you stand for, what you accept, what you reject, even if it creates tension, because tension is not the enemy. Lack of identity is. Avoiding conflict might feel like control, but it's actually avoidance, and people can sense that. If they know you'll never challenge them, they stop filtering themselves. They interrupt more. They dismiss your ideas faster. They cross lines they wouldn't cross with someone else, because there's no risk, no pushback, no consequence. But here's the key. Conflict doesn't mean aggression. It doesn't mean raising your voice. It doesn't mean losing control. It means being clear, direct, grounded, being able to say, no, that doesn't work for me, without explaining for 5 minutes, without apologizing for existing. That kind of response immediately changes how people see you, because it signals self-respect, and self-respect forces external respect. Now let's talk about something people underestimate. Consistency. You can say all the right things. You can set boundaries. You can act confident. But if it's not consistent, it doesn't matter. If one day you say no, and the next day you fold under pressure, people notice. If you commit to something, then disappear, people remember. If your words don't match your actions, people adjust. Because consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of respect. Without it, everything you say becomes optional. People stop relying on you. They stop taking your commitment seriously. And slowly, you lose credibility. Not because of one big mistake, but because of repeated inconsistency. Now there's something even deeper. Something most people ignore. Your presence. The energy you bring into a room. Before you even speak, people read you. They notice your posture, your eye contact, your movements. If you shrink yourself, avoid attention, speak softly and unsure, that becomes your signal. And people respond to that signal instantly, not consciously, but automatically, because humans are wired to read confidence, to detect certainty, to follow strength. If your body says, I'm not sure I belong here, people will treat you like you don't. But when your presence is grounded, calm, not forced, not exaggerated, just stable, people adjust in the opposite direction. They listen more, they interrupt less, they take you seriously. Because respect is not just logical, it's emotional, it's instinctive. Now here's one of the most damaging habits. Accepting small disrespect. Not the obvious kind, not open insults, the subtle ones, being talked over, being ignored, being dismissed with a tone, and you let it go. You tell yourself it's not worth it. You don't want to make it awkward. You don't want to overreact. But every time you ignore it, you reinforce it. You make it easier for it to happen again. Because people learn your limits by watching your reactions or your lack of reaction. And if nothing changes, Why would they change? Respect is maintained in small moments, not big speeches, not dramatic confrontations, tiny corrections, simple responses, a look, a pause, a direct sentence. That signals this is not acceptable. Without escalation, without emotion, just clarity. And that's enough. Finally, everything comes back to this: how you see yourself, because that shapes everything else. If you constantly question your value, you will act like it. If you believe you're easy to replace, you will behave like it. If you think your time is not important, you will treat it that way, and people will mirror it. Every time. But when you truly respect yourself, it shows. You don't chase approval. You don't over-explain. You don't tolerate disrespect. You don't bend your standards to fit others. You move differently. You speak differently. You decide faster. You say less, but mean more. And people feel that. They adjust to that. Because respect is not something you demand. It's something you demonstrate. Repeatedly. Through your behavior. Through your boundaries. Through your consistency. Through your presence. And once you remove the habits, that quietly destroy it. You don't need to chase respect anymore. It starts showing up on its own. In how people listen to you. In how they respond to you. In how they treat your time. And in how seriously they take you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped doing the things that were making you invisible.